And welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We are glad you're with us today as we bring you continual stories about Oklahoma and all the things that are relevant. And we have some interesting guests coming up in the next few weeks, and certainly one today.
We do. We have the AG, Drew Edmondson, coming on to talk about a lot of things. But first of all, welcome back.
Well, thank you.
I've been promising these people for weeks and weeks and weeks that you were coming back, and I think they started to doubt me, but I never doubted it.
Among the victims of this campaign season was this show, so I'm glad to be back and appreciate you filling in all the time I was gone.
Well, it was I had some good guest hosts that helped a lot, but I'm sure glad you're back. By the way, you can see our block of ice as it's referred to in the Gazette article for our viewers that haven't seen it. There's an article in the Gazette about the show, but really glad to have you back.
Well, thanks, Ken. Big show today?
Big show today. Going to talk about a lot of interesting current things.
With Drew Edmondson,
yes,
the Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma. We'll be right back on The Verdict.
At Chesapeake Energy, here's a few of our favorite Hornets. Alexis likes reading. Sam enjoys history. Alec loves math. Chesapeake is proud to support both the Oklahoma City NBA Hornets and the Young Hornets at Horace Mann Elementary, where over 150 Chesapeake employees mentor to children each week. The students gain a lot from the experience, but not as much as we do. Chesapeake Energy, committed to building a better Oklahoma.
Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leaving it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for it. Wiggins in to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
Oh, hi. I know you guys said I'd save with Cox Digital Telephone. Well, my bill came and... Could this be right?
You may be surprised how much you save with Cox Digital Telephone. That's why over 1.5 million people have switched.
So this really is a total? Lovely. Because I think I found a good use for the savings.
With Cox, there's no waiting for the other shoe to drop. The only surprise is there's no surprise at all.
The internet is not always friendly. It's not always secure. That's why Cox High-Speed Internet provides free security and privacy features, so experiencing the internet is safer than ever before. Cox High-Speed Internet is safe, and safe is beautiful.
Download now at coxoklahoma.com.
And welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
We are very pleased to once again welcome to the set of The Verdict the Honorable Drew Edmondson, the Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma. Drew is running for his 4th term as AG currently. He was a district attorney in Muskogee County for a number of years, and while district attorney, he served as president of the Oklahoma District Attorneys Association. Since he's been AG, he has been elected to a similar office, a national office, as national president of the National Association of Attorneys General. And he is involved in a lot of things we're going to find out about today. Welcome back. We appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank you. Great to be back on the show.
Stopping in here on the campaign trail and running things at the AG's office. How's the campaign going?
Campaign's going well. My wife and I started a 77-county tour right after Memorial Day, and I completed that Tuesday and Wednesday of last week with a run through Wagner, Rogers, Nowata, and then the next day Washington, Osage, and Pawnee counties. So we have officially campaigned in all 77 counties and ready to start over.
Well, I know you're a runner. You didn't really run through those, I guess you drove.
No. I've got a Jeep that we take on the campaign tour, and a section on our website is called Jeep Thrills. And you can click on that, and there are pictures of the Jeep at the Chisholm Trail Monument and different places around the state.
We've had your opponent, James Dunn, on a show previously. I'd like for you to tell the viewers, if you will, just what are the principal differences you see between yourself and your opponent?
Well, I don't like to talk about him a whole lot, but there are some differences in philosophy and some differences in experience. I think probably the biggest difference in experience is that I've had both civil and criminal legal experience. I spent 10 years as a prosecutor in Muskogee County. So when we have issues in the Attorney General's office like death penalty or the prosecution of methamphetamine, I have a background and an experience that I can bring to the table. They moved the domestic violence program from the Department of Mental Health to the Attorney General's office with my support. And my experience working with victims of domestic violence was very helpful in that regard. There are some philosophical differences as well. The poultry litigation that we're very involved in, he says he would dismiss. He is opposed to municipalities using the power of government to clean up slums. Had he been in my position or mayor in your position at the time, Bricktown may have never happened. So there are some differences there as well.
How do you weigh the responsibilities of candidate and office holder?
Well,
from a time perspective and an effort perspective.
Anytime there's a conflict in terms of requirements of one position or the other, the responsibilities of office win. You know, if there's something that I've got to do in terms of being Attorney General, some meeting that I must attend, then the campaign schedule goes by the wayside. Other than that, it's just the miracles of modern communication. When I'm on the road, I've got my cell phone. Stay in constant contact with my office. I've got an excellent staff. My first assistant and the chiefs of the various divisions do just a super job. And I stay in telephone contact when I'm on the road.
Yeah, you don't have sole responsibility to make every decision that your office is involved in, although I know you make the big ones. But tell us a little bit about the staff you've got that assists you while you're out on the campaign trail, your office
staff. Of course,
staff.
I'm responsible for every decision made in the office, whether I actually make them or not. We have a fairly short vertical organizational chart. It's me, my first assistant, and then we go to the chiefs of the various units. And it's the chiefs that really do the lion's share of the work in terms of the day-to-day work of the office. The chief of litigation, the chief of general counsel, those different units in their own spheres operate to serve the people of the state of Oklahoma. They all report to my first assistant, he reports to me.
Now this is, you're seeking your fourth term.
Yes.
Does it get any easier, the campaigning, the structuring of the campaign and all, after you've done it a few times, or are there just different challenges?
Well, I don't need a map to find the courthouse in any county in the state of Oklahoma, so we've got that down pat. It really is, you know, I don't know how Mr. Dunn does it when he's out on the road, but it is so nice to go into a county, go into a courthouse and know the people that are in there, go to the local newspaper and having visited with the editor in past years, having run for office before and been in this office for 12 years, it's an easy path around the state and a very friendly path, and I appreciate that very much.
What about the principal issues that you think are present in the campaign? If you had to isolate the top 2 or 3 issues in this campaign to allow the voters to make an informed decision, what would they be?
Well, anytime you have an incumbent in a campaign, the record of that incumbent has got to be an issue. For someone to say that they should be Attorney General instead of me, I think they need to point to what I've done over the last 12 years that merits a failure in confidence. I, on the other hand, am not only defending my record for the last 12 years, I think it's also incumbent upon me to talk about what I intend to do with another term. You know, you can't just run for re-election based on the fact that you've done a good job. The voters are going to want to know what you're going to do next. The major issues in the campaign are going to boil down to some of the differences that I mentioned, and the poultry litigation will be one of them. But it's certainly not the biggest thing we've done over the last 12 years. Very proud of what we did in the tobacco litigation. Very proud of what our office has accomplished in the area of public utility regulation. Very proud of what we've done in the area of consumer protection, protection of seniors, and also the recent installation of the domestic abuse programs in the Attorney General's office. I think that is both a past victory and a present course of action that we'll carry into a next term.
Every once in a while there is discussion about whether or not positions should be elected or appointed. Obviously in Oklahoma we elect our Attorney General. Is it that way in all 50 states?
No, it's that way in most of the states. In I think 44 of the 50 states, the Attorney General is independently elected and on a partisan ticket for whatever reason. In the remainder of the states, let's see, in Tennessee, the Attorney General is appointed by the Supreme Court. In Maine, the Attorney General is selected by the legislature. In Wyoming, New Jersey, Alaska, Hawaii, in a number of states, the Attorney General is appointed by the governor, as is the federal model.
When you visit with the newspaper editors from the 77 counties when you're traveling around, what questions do they have? Is there one theme that rural Oklahoma seems to want to learn from a prospective Attorney General?
Well, when I started off this tour in June and July, the big question everybody had is, can you make it rain? Everybody was terribly concerned about the weather. Editors are very concerned about the open meeting and open records laws in the state of Oklahoma. They appreciate the seminars that we've done in the past, and they want to make sure that our office will be vigorous in enforcing those laws in the future. And that's something that we're in common cause on. I agree with the editors on that subject.
Let me go back just for a minute. We don't have a lot of time in this segment, but the domestic abuse program now in your office, what's that going to do?
Well, one of the things it's going to do is say that the emphasis in domestic violence is a law enforcement emphasis. There may be requirements for counseling. The perpetrator may need counseling. Children in the home who have witnessed domestic violence may need counseling. All of that is true. But first and foremost, when somebody beats up a woman in a home, somebody needs to be arrested, and they need to be isolated in jail. And the woman needs to be given the resources they need to get control of that situation. And that's a law enforcement function. So by placing that program within the Attorney General's office, we're telling police departments and sheriffs, DAs and judges that this is not just a domestic deal. This is a serious law enforcement issue. It is part of a cycle of violence that all too often results in death.
Let me jump in here and get us to a break. We're visiting with the Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma, Drew Edmondson. We'll have more on the verdict right after this.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of the verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a flood nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Mom, shouldn't we pick a place to meet? If you're not home, should we go to the neighbors?
There's no reason not to have a plan in case of an emergency.
Should I pick up Sophia at the babysitter's house?
And some extremely good reasons why you should.
If we can't make it home, who will pick us up?
Talk to your family about what you would do in case of an emergency. For more information, visit www.ready.gov.
This message brought to you by the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security.
¿Eres tú?
There you go. Cox Communications está buscando empleados entusiásticos y motivados.
Disfruta de nuestros beneficios, pago competitivo, grandes ventajas y oportunidades para el adelante.
Si desea hacer una diferencia,
tenemos un lugar para usted aquí con Cox Communications.
Visítenos en la internet o llame para ver qué oportunidades tenemos para usted aquí en Cox.
¿Eres tú?
Cox Communications está orgulloso de ofrecer igualdad de empleos.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. As always, our guest this week is the Attorney General for the state of Oklahoma, Drew Edmondson. We've been hearing a lot about the poultry litigation that is going on. What can you tell us? What update do you have for us here?
Well, the last thing that happened was a motion hearing in federal court, Northern District in Tulsa. Both sides had a number of motions. The most important one from our standpoint was a move to dismiss 160 third-party defendants that the poultry industry had joined as alleged contributors to the pollution in the Illinois River watershed. Ironically, even though the land in the watershed is evenly divided between Arkansas and Oklahoma, all 160 of the contributors just happen to be on the Oklahoma side of the line. So we've moved to dismiss as to them, or in the alternative to stay proceedings as to them until the end of the trial. And then there were discovery motions on both sides. We're waiting for a ruling now. We filed the case July of last year. We have a tentative trial date in early 2008.
Where will this trial take place?
In Tulsa, in federal court, Northern District.
I noticed on your website, Drew, in getting ready for this show, you had listed as a priority for you the prosecution of corrupt government officials. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more what you have in mind in that regard?
Well, I'll back up just a little bit. None of us really enjoy paying taxes. We do, it's a civic duty, it's the law, we pay our taxes, some complain more than others. But if we're going to pay taxes, the least we can ask out of government is that it be honest. It may not always be efficient, but at least it can be honest. And so public corruption, the wasting of tax dollars by corrupt political activity or governmental activity, I think is a very egregious form of criminal activity. We've been very active in that regard. We've gone after mayors, DAs, judges, and high-ranking politicians of both parties. Probably the highest ranking so far has been Insurance Commissioner Carol Fisher, who was indicted by our multi-county grand jury unit, has now been tried and convicted with more trials down the road. In the week of the taping of this program, 2 officials from eastern Oklahoma, a former assistant district attorney and a former office administrator, both entered guilty pleas in Wagner County as a result of the investigations of the multi-county grand jury unit.
Let me follow up on that same topic. Your prosecution of these people, is it pretty much always in the multi-county grand jury setting?
It is, because our office does not have just general criminal jurisdiction. Unless it's in a specific area like workers' comp fraud or Medicaid fraud. If it's embezzlement or public corruption, it'll come through the multi-county grand jury unit. And it's something we intend to continue to do. In the Fisher case, for example, we have alleged that he accepted a $25,000 bribe. Nobody, as the alleged bribor, has been indicted. That investigation is ongoing, and that's something that I hope to continue.
Tell us about the criminal tracking program. What is that?
The Victim Information Notification Everyday VINE program is a result of a grant from the federal government, a little over $1 million, that we hope to have implemented statewide, all 77 counties, within the next 2 years. And basically what it does, it allows us to track criminal offenders through the system on a 24/7 basis. And this is going to be particularly helpful to victims of domestic abuse or sexual assault who are frightened about their offender being released and want to be notified immediately if and when they are released. And this allows you to plug your phone number into the system, and you'll receive a phone call at your home or other telephone number that you've designated in almost real time when that person is transferred or released from any facility. The federal government is on it nationwide. We'll be on it in all 77 counties, and we'll join about 60% of the U.S. population that's on it on a statewide basis. Anybody, news people, law enforcement can use the same tracking system once it's fully installed and implemented.
And when do you anticipate that being?
2 years. We'll have it up and running in all 77 counties. Tulsa had a head start on it. They had implemented it locally. We need to get it up and running in Oklahoma County and the rest of the counties of the state.
Drew, you discussed in the first segment your domestic abuse program, but I know you're doing more than that to try to protect children of Oklahoma. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Well, that's been an emphasis of mine over the last 12 years. The tobacco litigation was part financial and part because they'd been targeting kids, and that children were starting to smoke as we went through the decade of the 90s in record levels. And 1/3 of them would die prematurely due to cancer, heart disease, and smoking-related illness. So the whole tobacco litigation was intended to safeguard kids. The work that I've done with the Century Council and others on trying to keep alcohol out of the hands of those who are too young to have it. The message to parents, don't furnish, or other adults, don't furnish alcohol to your kids. Not only is it wrong, it's against the law. You can be arrested and prosecuted for it. So this has been an emphasis of mine and one that I hope to continue as the state's law firm doing what we can to protect our kids.
To a certain extent, the railroad industry enjoys an antitrust exemption, and you, along with some other attorneys general from around the country, have asked Congress to step in, review that, if not revoke that antitrust exemption. Tell us more about that and how you feel about it.
That's correct. The industry has been generally exempt from antitrust laws, and actually Congress had already initiated the legislative process. There were bills pending, and we weren't asking them to create legislation. There were bills pending to do this. And a number of attorneys general signed off on a letter urging that those pieces of legislation be adopted. This is a difficult problem for what we refer to as captive consumers, people like public utilities who have to rely on railroads to deliver coal, for example. They have seen and are subject to price increases when they have no alternative, nowhere else to go. And it's those kind of practices in the agriculture arena as well that we hope to get a handle on by a little more scrutiny of how the railroads operate.
About a minute to go with Drew.
Drew, we just have a minute. Why don't you tell the viewers why you ought to be reelected as Attorney General?
Well, I guess probably the best line is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think we've done a good job over the last 12 years. I'm very grateful to the trust that the people of the state of Oklahoma have put in me as their Attorney General. We've tried to uphold the record of AGs dating back to statehood in that this is an office that has never been tainted by scandal. No Attorney General has ever been removed by impeachment or been the subject of a criminal prosecution, and you can't say that for other offices of the state of Oklahoma, including Governor and the Supreme Court. We believe that we're there to represent the people and intend to continue doing that.
Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma, Drew Edmondson. Drew, thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Of course, as Kent mentioned, we've had Drew's opponent, James Dunn, on a previous show. Kent, I'll have a final word when we return. You're watching The Verdict.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Hi, honey. You've got to check this out.
What? What are we listening to?
I had digital phone service installed today.
It sounds just like before.
I know, but it's going to save us a ton of money.
With Cox Digital Telephone, you'll save big every month. Keep your same phone number and get your favorite calling features. Just pay less.
That does sound good.
You should hear the upstairs phone.
I'm Chris Paul.
And I'm Dave Lyell with some of our friends from the Boys and Girls Clubs in Oklahoma. Growing up is tough. Everyone needs a fun and safe place to learn and grow.
Boys and Girls Clubs offer programs that instill a sense of pride, purpose, and belonging. Club kids have grown up to become movie stars and, yes, even basketball legends.
We hope you'll join Cox, Oklahoma in supporting the Boys and Girls Club.
Get involved with your local club today because it truly is
a positive place for kids.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We enjoyed our conversation with Attorney General Drew Edmondson.
Always informative. He's got a lot going on, got a lot of bases to cover, and he does it quite well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have a website that you can get more information about the Edmondson campaign. You go to www.edmondsonagain.com. That's edmondsonagain.com. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, we had his campaign opponent, James Dunn, on previous shows, and hope we've allowed the viewers to know a little bit more about both candidates as they continue to make their decision in November.
Tried to present equal time for each of them.
We also have a website for this show, and if you'll go there, you can check in with us and let us know about a show that you'd like to see on a future edition of The Verdict. That website address is theverdict.tv, and we have a show coming up.
Yep, on the Freedom Walk that took place on 9/11. We're going to have two guys that were instrumental in that, going to tell us about the Freedom Walk, how it went, and what they hope to do in the future.
Look forward to doing that. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We will see you next time on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced by the Production Services Group at Cox Communications, exclusively for the Cox Channel.